Okay, welcome to a very cool case study. Welcome, Alan Short from down in South Australia. Mate, tell us a little bit about you for those that don't know you. You're an Adelaidean
Okay.
and you run a business. Give us a 30-second intro.
Yep. I own a business with my father. We maintain and inspect fire equipment. So we do anything from small businesses right the way through to large corporations. Some of the names you'd know would be Cooper's Brewery, Wolf Blass Wines, the Mantra Group of hotels. We do a lot of apartment buildings and for a lot of the main body corporate management companies.
Yeah, and you're based in South Australia, and really, it's probably fair to say, don't have any intentions of taking over every other state. You just want to be really good in your area, right?
Yeah, I'm not an aggressive person by nature. What I want to do is get a business that really works and works without me, so that I can spend 2-3 days a week in it, so that I can then focus on giving what I've learned in growing a business to other people down the track.
Yeah, awesome. So talk us through a little bit about the book. Now, you're not just a business owner, but you're now an author, and in fact, you're writing your second book. And would it be fair to say that when I suggested to you that maybe a book might be a really good way of overcoming some marketing problems, you probably thought I was mildly insane? Tell us a little bit about that.
Really insane. So my wife is involved in, she's a communications manager for Catholic education. And one of the things that she does is write for a living. So the idea that me, the engineer, the tactical person, would actually write a book and she wouldn't, was chalk and cheese. Nobody expected it. So the idea of writing a book was the furthest thing from my mind. It was something that I couldn't see how you could apply it to get more business, to generate more business and more leads. So
you were kind of going on faith a fair bit there, that you thought, okay, this sounds like a reasonable idea.
I was thinking, what do I have to lose?
Right.
The way I was doing marketing at the time, which was cold calling and following up with emails and just trying to knock on the door again and again and again, was something that I, as an introvert, really, really hate. And I would have preferred to stab myself in the eye than do a cold call. So I was looking for something different, and I thought the idea of, when you suggested writing a book, meant I could avoid cold calling for a little bit longer.
So I guess so really it was an avoidance tactic. It was, how can I get out of doing this part of the job that I really don't like?
Correct.
So cold calling, I remember you telling me, look, I'll do it if I have to, but I don't love it. If we had another way of kind of dealing with getting people in the door, that would be really cool.
Exactly.
So I guess if you kept up with sort of the cold calling the way you were doing it, well, tell us how, was it sporadic? Were you avoiding it? What sort of happened?
I had a really good framework of what to do, how to do. I had scripts on how to actually talk to the people. We had a process of how to find the actual person to talk to, then talking to them about what we would like to come in and talk to them about, and then what we'd like to talk to them about. So we had this process that was well mapped out, but not the right person, which was me, to be able to drive that. So I couldn't even commit to making 5 phone calls a week.
Right. Okay.
So just something. I don't like talking to people that I don't have a relationship or a connection with.
Yeah, right.
If I had a warm inquiry, different story.
Yeah.
But a cold call, I just couldn't. Really struggled to motivate to bring myself to do it.
So I guess if we look at, if you didn't do something about it, what's the impact? Like if you're struggling to make 5 calls a week, what's going to end up happening to to your business?
So we were growing the business by around about $50,000 a year.
Yep.
Now, considering at the time we were about $1.75 million, and we'd been sitting on that $50,000 growth. So some of that's organic growth, and a very small part of it was from the cold calling. So we were really just keeping ahead of CPI. We weren't going,
and only barely. So really just maintenance kind of level.
Correct. I would have done better just upping my prices by 2% and not doing any cold calls at all.
Right. But I guess the thing is, and if you don't do that, we've got, no inflow of new clients coming in.
Correct. And as we've spoken about a number of times, your business is either growing or it's dying.
Yep.
And if it's just staying the same and just static, then it's effectively dying. So it's just dying a long, slow death.
So I guess the other problem that I think, obviously there's the avoidance of cold calling, which I really like, the idea of. But also in your marketplace, it was actually kind of hard to get to people, wasn't it?
Yeah, and there's national players, so the Chubbs and the Wormongs that most people know. There's also a crowded middle part of the market of local state players. So there's probably all up that can do the sort of major sites that we can look after. There's probably anywhere between 30 and 50 that would put their hands up to be able to do it.
Yep.
And for the smaller clients, there's probably all up around about 100.
Okay. So you've got quite a bit of competition, and from players with much deeper pockets than you.
Much deeper pockets, and often with salespeople that enjoy the cold calling and the knocking on
much more than you do.
Correct.
Right. The other thing is actually finding them, because I remember you saying they're actually a little bit like in your clients. No one goes, "Oh, that's my role. I look after fire maintenance in buildings." It's not a particularly glamorous role, and they're hard to find. Is that the case?
Yeah, and it's not the core part of their business. So if you think of a factory, the maintenance manager who's looking after all the machines in the factory also gets lumbered with looking after the fire system. And his priority is to make sure production continues to work and not about the fire maintenance. If you look at most of the hotels, then they've got a maintenance manager on site again who's repairing things that are damaged to make sure that the hotel looks really good and everything's working. And fire is a small part of what he does. Or you've got your body corporate managers that might manage the administration for an apartment building, and they're really busy processing and administering that system. The idea of going out to find a new fire contractor is extra time and extra work for them. So nobody puts their hand up and says,
I'll take on that role. Yeah.
Correct. And nobody put their hand up and go, you know what? Let's go test the market.
Yeah.
They will only do it if the current provider really stuffs up.
Right.
As a general rule.
And it's probably harder to stuff up in this instance, unless a building burns down, of course. But, so you've got this sort of situation where you've got really busy clients with a very low care factor for speaking to a new supplier.
Correct. And what we do is not sexy.
Right.
If you think of almost most other professions, if you think of what you do, Brett, with your business coaching or your mentoring and teaching people how to write books, the idea that you can teach someone to write a book, that's sexy. The idea of learning how to build a better business, that's a bit more sexy, and people go, yeah, I'd really like to do that. The idea of getting someone different to maintain your fire extinguisher that you don't even know why you need a fire extinguisher in the first place, really hard to convince somebody to go to the effort to change.
Right. So you're really up against it in a lot of ways in building your business. You're standing out in that crowd. You've got busy clients with a low care factor, and then you've got you who would really love pretty much any other activity than doing cold calling
Correct.
in your week. So let me, that's a very different position to come in as an author to writing your book. So tell me a little bit about your thinking process when you thought, okay, actually, I think writing a book could be a really cool approach to this marketing problem.
The key person of influence book that I read got me thinking about whether or not I can change that and make myself a key person of influence in my industry. Yeah. I was heavily involved in the professional association. I'd actually been awarded a Meritorious Service Medal award, so I've been recognised in my industry for what I do and what I give back to the industry. So I knew that within the industry, I was well connected and fairly influential in South Australia. And I went, well, I wonder if I can maximise that idea, and the idea of writing a book that would work, as I now describe it, as a business card on speed.
Right. Right. So rather than just leave a brochure with people, now it's a business card that actually has some real value to people.
Correct. And when I look at it now, if you do a nice glossy folder and you've got half a dozen information sheets inside it that are printed on nice glossy paper, that's probably costing you anywhere between $5 and $10 or $12 each folder.
Yeah.
And if we think about what we do with those folders, most of us flick through them, have a read, put them in the bin.
Yeah. Yep. They don't stick around too long, really, do they?
No, and they might go in a drawer, and then a few years later, or at the end of the year, everybody tidies out that drawer with all that rubbish in and throws it out again.
Yeah.
But it's not something, a book sits on a bookshelf.
Yeah.
People have, in my experience and me personally, have a real aversion to taking a book and throwing it in the bin.
Yeah. Yeah. And is the cost of delivering that book the same as or similar to the cost of doing the folders?
So my books, they're not big, get landed, they're only about 80 pages. They are landed in Australia for about $4.50 each.
Right.
To my office. And then, you've got $2 postage when you post.
Have you got a book there? Can you hold one up for us? There we go. And it's called?
Again, not very thick, so but it's still a book. So it's called Ready, Set, Fire, How to Get Ready, Set Up and Manage Fire Maintenance Contractors.
So Ready, Set, Fire. And tell me about what you decided to write about, because there's a lot of things that you could write about, but you landed on quite a cool strategy. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, one of the key things that would really annoy me when I would actually put in a price is we would scope the whole maintenance regime for the fire and essential services in the building. And often we would be going up against somebody else, and the body corporates, they're really who I'm targeting. They would just send a order out, say, do a quote, send it back in 3 weeks.
Yep.
And that's all. Here's the name, or here's how to get access to the building, and that would be all the information that they get you. We are really professional about what we do, so we would go to the extreme to make sure we covered everything that needed to be maintained in the building. And we would be very particular about including all of those things. But there are a lot of other companies that would exclude some of the big ticket annual items. So when we're talking about a $10,000 or $15,000 annual maintenance budget for a 15-level apartment building, and they've missed out the $1,200 to service the diesel and electric fire pumps, they've missed that out.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, we're 10% more expensive.
Right. And so really, because they've kind of got a bit of a gap in their knowledge or their ability,
yep,
that was making life harder for you anyway.
Correct. And we'd find out.
They were leaving themselves at risk, I guess.
Exactly. And we'd find out, we'd phone them up and they said, oh, yeah, we awarded it to such and such. Oh, cool. What did we lose it on? We were over by that much. Can you send us their scope of works? And we look at their scope of works and go, they've missed this, this, and this. Well, it's too late now. We're not going to change it.
Right.
And when we did get in early enough to actually be able to see that scope of works, and they'd go back to those other people, we'd end up being very competitive, if not the, either the cheapest or 1 or 2% more. But we get it right each time.
So the focus of the book is really about educating your clients about how to hire someone like you.
Correct. How to get ready to hire someone like us, how to set it up properly, and then how to start and manage a fire maintenance contract is basically the 3 phases that are contained within the book.
Excellent.
And
yeah,
it's down, if you wanted to, if you were a building owner, you could actually follow the processes in the book and you could follow it through and do it all yourself.
Right. So really it's not a glossy brochure about your business. It really is a step 1, do this, step 2, if you want to maintain this level of excellence, get stuck in and do this.
Correct. It's a how-to guide, and it's really broken down into 4 sections. The first section is about a background of why you need to do it, which includes some case studies of some major buildings that have burnt down and how, if they would have got their fire maintenance right, those things wouldn't have happened.
Yep. So we've got some case studies.
Case studies and the legislative framework of how and what the equipment looks like. The second part of the book is how to do up a brief, so how to actually get something ready to send out to your potential contractors to get proper quotes in.
Yep.
Third part is the evaluation of those quotes. What often happens is these busy people who don't know what they don't know, just look at the bottom line and go, that's the cheapest price, I'll take that one.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily the best value for money. If you have a maintenance contractor that you have to spend an hour every week managing, you've got to include that cost back. If your alternative one means you don't have to spend any time, even if they're 2 or 3% more expensive, they're actually cheaper in the long run.
Right, gotcha.
And
so it really steps through. Oh, sorry, mate. Yeah, the final one.
Then the final part is how to manage the contract on an ongoing basis.
Yeah. So it really does just step them through the entire process and takes them from really, this is they now understand exactly what to do to deal with this really important aspect of their job that they haven't had time for previously.
Correct. Exactly.
So you've done the book, you've sent it out to a bunch of people, and it's been how long? About 12 months now that you've had the book out in the market?
I reckon it's getting on to about 18 months.
Right. Okay.
And originally, it felt really false and pretentious to give a book out.
Right.
Now it's actually second nature, and it really starts a conversation. I was out quoting a job yesterday. I was meeting with the maintenance manager at a hotel. We were talking about the maintenance, and I said, here's the process we go through. In fact, I've written a book about it. Here's a copy of it that outlines it. We flicked through it. He said, thank you very much. I'm going to have a read of that.
Fantastic.
It's easy to give away now.
Right. So I guess, how is everything different to what it was before we did the book? And you've just given us a practical example. I guess you're not sitting on the phone doing cold calls and avoiding them anymore.
No. The book has allowed me to, and it's combined with an overall strategy of this key person of influence in the industry that I'm really trying to get to, which is the body corporate managers.
Yep.
So I'm actively involved in their professional association, which then allowed me to gain early access into training some of the body corporate managers as part of the continual professional development they require.
And that's all based around the book, right?
That's correct. Exactly.
Step 1, do this. Step 2, do that.
Yep.
So it's really helped you hone in on exactly who you want to help, which is your body corporates, So you've really refined that niche, and so now that niche are actually coming to you for training.
Correct. So you still have to push to a degree, but off of the book that gave me the access into the training, that then gave me access into presenting at their state conference, which allowed me to give out more copies of my book, allowed us to be seen differently from everybody else. So everybody else is seen to be wanting to knock on their door to ask them for information, for the chance to quote on a job. So we'd like to come and see you and tell you about what makes us different.
Right.
When I'm
so in other words, we'd like to come and sell you our stuff straight off the bat. Yep.
Where I'm knocking on their door going, I want to come in and I want to train your staff so that they know either how to set up a fire maintenance contractor and manage it properly so that they lower their risk, or educate you on what needs to be done in the maintenance schedule, or you've got questions, I can answer the questions in a training session with your staff.
So you've really shifted from sales to education in terms of marketing. What's that done for your personal desire to connect with people?
If you want me to come in and teach you something, I'm up for it. I'm there.
Right.
Not a problem. I will quite happily come and talk to them, and I can talk to them for 20 minutes to half a day. It's how much time they'll give me. Is really the opening. And every now and then you ask me a question that you can see I get a little bit more passionate about, and I can just talk about it without an on or an R or anything like that, because I know that information, that topic really well.
And is that partly because you've had to download it into the book and get some structure about the book?
It's partly that, and partly that to a degree, because it's the business that we operate in, and because it's my main role of sales and marketing and education of both external and internally. So I look after all the training of our staff. It's my genius zone. It's the area that you can just push a button and Alan goes.
Yeah, got it. So at that point, you feel like you're actually doing the work you love. You're talking about things you're passionate about. You've recorded all of that in the book. So if you've missed anything or they have other questions, you can just go, it's all in there, speak
That's
to
right.
me.
Yep.
Do they then kind of go, okay, so, you're doing all this education. Can you maybe take over our fire maintenance contract?
They're doing two really different ways of what their responses are.
Yep.
So some people are responding by giving me a call when they've got a question and saying, we've got a question. We had a flick through your book. We couldn't quickly find the answer. We thought we'd just give you a call.
Yeah.
Can you help me with whatever that is? Yeah. So they're now contacting me to build a relationship with me.
Right.
Which naturally then leads a
completely
flipped
it's completely flipped the dial, hasn't it?
Correct. And it's a continual two-way conversation that happens over time. And eventually they then go, well, can you actually quote on whatever our building is or whatever our issue is, because you know what you're doing.
So so I guess for you, the book's it positions you in the marketplace, but it's also a relationship builder.
Definitely a relationship builder. The other people look at the book, go experience the education, going, all right, these guys do stuff differently. Yeah. They then ask us to quote, and we've broken the process down so that we actually offer a brief or a scope of works for your building.
Yep.
So the clients don't even have to do anything. All they have to do is evaluate it at the end. We basically take care of everything that's in this book. We basically can take care of for you, because that's what we do anyway. Right.
And so I guess if we slip back to this one, that you're giving your books away, you've created some marketing funnels using the book. Correct. And so you've mentioned that when you're at conferences, you can give the book away. It's a much nicer introduction. Give us a bit of an overview and even if you've got an example that you can talk about, a client that's come to you via the book and what that sort of looked like from a marketing perspective.
Yeah, a good example I've got is a recent apartment hotel complex that we picked up.
Yep.
Is a good example. So we were asked by the body corporate manager to go in and have do the quote.
Yep.
We went in, met with the maintenance manager of the hotel apartment complex. I gave him a copy of my book.
Yep.
We then asked for some information, and I went away and I scoped that out. We had some gaps in that, so I went back and saw him again, prepared the whole scope of works that we then gave to him and the body corporate manager so they could get other quotations.
Yeah.
Off of that, I then prepared our own quotation.
So you were one of the 3 or 4 quotes that...
Correct.
Yeah.
They then get all the quotations, and then they met together to assess it. We were around about 5% more expensive than the cheapest tenderer, who was somebody that they'd used on other jobs before. So it was a known quantity.
It was an incumbent, and they were cheaper.
Yep.
Yeah.
But because of the relationship that I had built with the maintenance manager, he was open when somebody else suggested, we've used Fire and Emergency Services SA on another job and we think they're really good.
Yep.
That conversation, he went, you know what? That's my experience. These guys stand out to be different to everybody else. Let's give them a go.
Right.
And we pick up a job where we're more expensive.
Right. So
without the book, I wouldn't have been able to do that.
Right. So it's helped you compete against people that are lower priced than you, and it's built a relationship in a way that is really authentic for you.
Correct.
That, you know, like your natural ability is to want to help and guide rather than feel all salesy and
Exactly.
What a great case study. So that's a very, very different flip from what you were doing 18 months ago.
Exactly. Where I would have been phoning that hotel up, asking to come in and speak to their maintenance manager, and then trying to tell them what differentiates us from our competition.
Yeah.
And then
just feeling like pitch fest.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. So the book is obviously, you know, as a strategy, it's working really well. What about the results? Because I know you were telling me just the other day that the level of, leads coming into the business has quite dramatically changed, hasn't it?
It has. So bear in mind how unsexy our business is and the level of growth we were getting before. So for these, what I call Class A clients, which are the big apartment buildings, we were getting an inquiry maybe 2 a month, 1 to 2 a month originally.
Yep.
These are the clients we want to go after because they've got a reasonable amount of money involved in the building.
Yep.
They are good payers.
Yep.
So administratively, we don't have to chase up the invoices. They really get paid almost automatically at 30 days end of month. We don't have to think about it. It just happens. And they're not super educated. So when we tell them something, they believe us. They don't try to second guess us or anything like that.
Yeah,
so
great.
They're easy to work with. So they're really good clients to have.
And
so
out of the 1 to 2 inquiries, what was your conversion rate out of that the old way?
The old way was probably around about 30%.
Right. Okay. Yep.
So 30 to 35%.
Yep. Okay.
With the book, we've had peaks of up to 8 times the number of inquiries.
Wow.
And that peaks at when I've presented at a conference. That's where that peaks come from. But on an ongoing basis, we're now averaging 4 to 5 inquiries per month. So we've
increased dramatically.
Exactly, dramatically. And
what's the conversion rate like?
Our conversion rate is, since I've been recording it for this financial year, is around about 45%.
Yep.
But that includes all the quotes that we've done this financial year.
Yep.
Bear in mind that our sales cycle is usually 3 to 6 months.
But it's still, you've got a lift in every meaningful number there. You know, you're getting more leads and you're converting more of them.
And we're not having to be the lowest price to convert them.
Right. So you're no longer having to compete on price. You're standing out from the, from your competition, and you're actually getting to work with more clients you really do your best work with.
Correct. A win-win, really.
Yeah, yeah. So now that you know what you know about writing books, and you've obviously been through the process, and you're part of the book writing, the No BS book writing, and I think you're onto your second book now, aren't you?
I'm on to my second book, yes.
The first one was so successful. We're gonna go round for another. What have you learned about writing a book, and the process of doing that, and then actually using it in your business?
I would say one of the key learnings is how valuable it is to a book and being a published author. Being able to say to somebody, here's my book. Here's a copy of it. If you need more copies, just let me know, or you can look me up on Amazon.
Right.
The fact that no one's ever bought a book on Amazon, that's beside the point.
Yeah.
But it's just such a differentiator. Everybody talks that, it'd be a good idea to write a book. And I've had a number of conversations with other people in allied industries about writing a book, and they all go, yeah, it's a really good idea. But nobody thinks.
Right. No one actually does it. Yeah.
The other thing is, the lesson I've really learned is, you don't have to be the best in your industry to be able to write a book about whatever your industry or your thing is. You just have to be better than the majority of people.
Yeah, yeah.
So I felt a bit like a fraud writing a book about fire maintenance.
So there's a little bit of imposter, who am I to write a book about this?
Correct. But when I talk to the body corporate managers, it's quite clear I know my stuff that they don't, and I know a lot more stuff about fire maintenance than they do. So I write a book that helps them.
Yeah. And I guess the stories, so what you're saying is your stories, your ideas, your approach, while it seems very mundane to you, it's actually quite innovative for others.
Correct. And it's no new content. It's just, I haven't come up with a unique idea.
Right.
What I've come up with is a way of putting it together that's helpful to people. So I've used it as an education tool, not as a unique concept that I came up with that, I've invented off of my own.
And so it's really just your perspective on something that's, that's already there, but the effect is it's very, very effective in.
Correct.
And I wanted to ask you this too, because obviously there's not a huge market for people who want to read that book. It's not like an Oprah book or an autobiography of someone. How many books do you think you've given away or sold already?
I reckon I'm up around about the 150 mark.
Right, so pretty low in the numbers, about 150 books, thereabouts.
Yep.
Tell me about what revenue you believe that book has contributed to in your business.
This financial year, we put on so far $108,000 worth of reoccurring revenue. So that's 108 for this year, for next year, and in most cases we keep clients for around about between 5 and 20 years.
Right. Okay.
We turn 20 next year, and we've still got clients we started with.
Right. So even if we just said you keep these clients for 5 years, we're now looking at $500,000.
Correct. And that we haven't finished this financial year yet. So
right. So I guess, for those who go, but you need to be a New York Times bestseller to make money out of your book. No. You're saying, heck no, there's a smarter way to actually do it.
Correct.
Yeah. Because that's not many books to produce that much kind of ongoing revenue when it's connected to your business.
And when we really if we look at body corporate managers, while there might only be, there's about 120 to 140.
Right, so it's a pretty small market too.
It's a small market, so I'm probably got 60 to 75% of the people have a copy of my book at the moment, and I'm looking at making that 100%.
Yep.
It's a small market, but the body corporate people look after 1 in 4 homes.
Right.
So in South Australia, 1 in 4 people live in a building that is a body corporate managed building. And that could be a block of units or a block of townhouses up to an apartment building. If you go to the Gold Coast or to Sydney, then you're talking even a higher percentage. I think it's in the Gold Coast, it's 1 in 3.
Right. So the opportunity for saturation is huge.
Correct. And if I can be that go-to person, if our company can be the go-to company for that niche, it's a significant amount of business that we can
and really kind of secures your future business too.
Correct.
If you can lay this foundation there for you.
Exactly.
The other thing that I wanted to ask you about was being part of the group. You mentioned that one of the things you like about that is, we obviously get on our regular, fortnightly calls, and we're on the Facebook group and all that stuff. You mentioned about having someone, one of the other authors or myself actually asking you, so where you're at. Tell us a bit about what that's like when you're going through the process of writing and producing and publishing the book.
Yeah. Writing a book, it's one of the important things to do, but it's not an urgent thing to do.
Right. Yeah.
And therefore, what we can all do with important and non-urgent work is we put it off, because it's easy to do the busy work or the important and urgent stuff.
Yeah.
And therefore, it never gets done. Having the webinar calls where we all get asked, what have we done on our book in the last fortnight? Or we get challenged like we did at the last one of, Alan, I think it's about time that you get a cover for your new book.
Yeah.
So, I went through the process of using Freelancer to give me options for my book.
Yep.
And I've got for the next book, and I've got really good options coming for that.
And because I guess all the other authors from around the world can kind of comment and give you their perspective as well.
Correct. I've been able to post the half a dozen book covers that I liked.
Yep.
On there, and I had a concept in my mind of what I liked, and it's a good testing ground. A number of people have come back. So some of them have a surfboard or a combi van and a surfboard, because I'm a bit passionate about surfing at the moment. So I had that in my concept for my next book as part of the cover. But a lot of people have come back saying, no, that's going to eliminate a lot of people from writing up your book. So we've come up with something completely different, which, I'm really, really excited about.
And I guess, so not only are you getting feedback, but there's a bit of structure in what we do, isn't there, that kind of makes certain aspects of getting your book from out of your head to real life much easier.
It does. And, this book would be different if I'd have written it in the group versus writing it myself.
Yeah.
It would have included, there's not a lot of story content. It's really a factual textbook.
Yeah.
And that's good for a textbook, but it doesn't give the reader a reason to want to engage with the book and read through it. And that sort of strategy on how to make your book more readable is really helpful.
Yeah, right. So I guess what to anyone who's seeing this and thinking, hey, you know what, my business ain't so sexy, I'm not sure that I can write a book about it. Or, I know a lot of people who sell services find it hard to stand out. I guess what's your experience and what's your advice to them when it comes to using a book as a strategy?
I think part of using the book as part of an overall strategy of building yourself as a key person of influence is one of the easiest ways of doing it. To have to knock on doors to do it and to be seen as a personality in that industry is really hard. And a book is it's a great differentiator. It's not a lot of people do it.
Yeah. So it's way easier than cold calling.
Way easier than cold calling. And, people respond really warmly to the fact that I wrote a book, and think carefully about why you're writing the book. So I wrote the book to make their life easier as an education tool. And when I explain that that's what it's about, it gets he's here to help me. He's not here to help himself.
Yeah, I like that. So that you're really clear on how it helps your readers.
Correct. Because the book's not about yourself. It's about engaging and helping your readers.
Right. And because I guess if you did focus it more on you, it might have the opposite effect.
Correct. It really does. Yeah, it's really then like a sales brochure. It's not about a book that's helping, and then it's going to go in the bin.
Yeah. So tell me, what sort of resources did you find most useful in the sort of the various stages, both writing the book, publishing it and bringing it to life, and then leveraging it in your business?
Yep. So writing the book, a couple of things that I've especially been using in the new book is rev.com. So dictating the text and then getting it transcribed.
Yep. So rather than just sitting down and at the keyboard.
Correct.
Yeah.
I found that really useful. The other thing is just making time to chunk down small parts.
Yep.
So going, cool, I'm just writing this section, and spend 2 hours to just write that small section rather than look at the whole book. Once you've developed a framework in the individual sections, you can just pull out bits and pieces and do small parts and just do little sprints, which is
right.
Easy.
Yeah, because I guess in your second book, we've really built that around the game plan framework. Correct. And that's probably made life a lot easier for you to break it down into. I could imagine your engineering mind likes that structure.
Correct. And my engineering mind did the same thing with the first book, where I mapped out the table of contents so that I could then chunk down and fill it out.
Yeah.
And then it's just a matter of just doing it. I was listening to a podcast a couple of days ago with an author, and he was saying he actually writes it by hand.
Right.
And the reason he writes it by hand of his first draft is nobody expects to see a handwritten first draft. So therefore it says in his mind, it's not actually for anybody else. It's just getting the ideas down. And the idea that you can write it, get your idea down, and then refine it is another way. It doesn't have to be perfect the first time. In fact, it just has to be getting the ideas on the page.
Yeah, because I would imagine if you're doing... So with the voice to text, you're recording it, uploading it to Rev, they're transcribing it, and now you have a couple of thousand words to edit.
To edit, exactly.
What about in the publishing stage? So once you've got the actual writing, what are some of the resources that you've found useful in bringing it to life? You mentioned, having the feedback from the group about...
Having the feedback from the group, the resources to get the cover done. It's really changes your view on the book when you actually have a cover.
Yeah.
And it doesn't ever, you have in your mind that the cost to come up with a cover like that, with back and front, is going to cost you a lot to engage a graphic designer. That original concept cost me whatever it is.
I think it was about $80. I remember you telling me, or $20.
No, it was $5.
Right.
So I went to Fiverr.com for that one. My new book, I put up on Freelancer, I put up a competition for $60, and I got 60 applications of different ideas.
Right. So the
cool.
Shortcuts we've developed really do enable you to get it done in much simpler, easier, cheaper way.
Yep. The other thing with publishing, depending upon how detailed a person you are, as to I did this one, or in terms of the typesetting, or myself.
Yep.
And because I'm a detailed person like that, I had it on the website with the publishing company. Yep. They give you a template. You basically populate that template with your words, and you then just put in page returns, and all of a sudden you've got yourself a book. And it's so easy to upload. Yeah. And I've been printing small lots because I don't have a massive market. I've been doing them in 20 or 30 lots. Yep. And sometimes I've been updating it with errors, spelling errors and grammatical errors that people have found, which is awesome because it means they've read my book.
going via the self-publishing route that we go, and with the actual book printers we use, you're able to just, when someone sees a spelling mistake, you can just change it, re-upload it, and it's ready to go again.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What about in actually using it in the marketing and leveraging the book? What are 3 resources you've found, or 1 or 2 even resources you've found particularly helpful in actually getting it to bring work in the door?
Yep, I think one of the recommendations is to read the Key Person of Influence book, and I can't remember who it's authored by.
That is, I'll find it and put a link in here. Yeah,
it's an Australian guy. So,
yeah, he is. He lives in the UK now.
Yep. Now I got it as an audio book, so if you're commuting to work, it's an easy way to consume a book like that. So, and it gives you that overall framework. So that would be one of the things that I'd recommend somebody to do.
Yep.
And then it's to just get it out there.
Yep.
It feels stupid to start off with, and you have that imposter syndrome. But people are really receptive to you giving them a book.
Yeah.
And one of the other things that I've been doing of late, especially if it's a client or a type of client that I think is going to be really valuable, is I send them 2 books. So here's a copy for yourself, and here's a copy for you to give to somebody who might find it helpful. So if you think of a body corporate manager who's sitting in an office with 10 other body corporate managers, they get 2 copies of the book. They're going to keep one on their bookshelf, and they're going to go to somebody that they think, and they basically referred you on to that person.
Yeah.
They've been a referral for you. So
that's fantastic.
I haven't been tracking how that's been working, but I think that's a real good way of spreading the knowledge.
I think it's a genius way of having that book, having someone easily recommend you. And I know the other thing you've done is you've actually set up some landing pages and sales funnels where people can actually go and order a free copy of the book as well.
Correct. So you order a copy of the book, and we're using Entreport to then deliver them a set of ongoing emails to start to build a relationship with them that culminate in me giving them a call saying, how have you got on with the book? Have you got any questions? Happy to come out and see you, happy to answer any questions, just touching base with you. So it's a good way of using the book to build that warm relationship.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, Alan, mate, we're just about at time. So thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. It's been really fascinating to dig into the way you used your book, why you wrote your book. Very, very different to what a lot of people think of as an author, and I know a lot of people are very, I don't know whether I'm an author, I don't know whether that, I'm not a bookie person or whatever, but you've got a different story to say to them. So if you left them with a couple of thoughts, if someone's sort of sitting there thinking, like I run a non-sexy business and I'd really like to get higher quality clients and not have to cold call, what's a couple of things that you'd say to get them started?
One is to think about what it is that you've got to offer, that unique selling point, that perspective of what makes you different. Yep. And the other is just start it. Just do it. It's really not, it took me 3 months to write it. And we went on a family holiday and I wrote I wrote 1 chapter on the aeroplane over and another chapter on the aeroplane back. Right. It was dead time where I would have been reading a book.
So just fit it around your life. There's no go off to a beachside hut and write. It's just fit it around your busy life.
Now, don't get me wrong. I reckon I'd like to do that as well.
Especially if there was a surfboard involved, right? Exactly.
So it's just get on and do it, because once you've got it, and I've spoken to a number of different people who, through the book club, have written books and then found it just opens doors that they never thought they'd ever be able to open.
Right. So it just opens professional doors in all sorts of areas.
Exactly.
So lots of unintended consequences from writing.
Yeah. And it's good to talk to your friends about as well, to say, yeah, you know, oh, did I tell you I'm an author now? Look, and they all kind of roll their eyes, and you go, look, here I am on Amazon.
It exists in real life. You can order it.
Yeah, that's right. I've just got to get one person to order it. But if you don't like cold calling, it's a really good part of a strategy of this key person of influence way of marketing, which is so much easier and allows you to sell yourself not based on price. Really worth it.
And really, I guess the future for your business and the sales is now really very bright, because you can pass this on to your team to do, really, in your absence.
Correct. It's not hard for me to then go around and present at a couple of seminars, do some training, and it's not hard marketing. It's not that continual churn of trying to develop new stuff and get in front of people and feel that rejection when they don't want to talk to you.
Excellent. Now, you mentioned you're writing another book. Just tell us what that's about very briefly.
Yep. So the new book is called The 2-Day Workweek.
Yep.
It's about how to get time control, time freedom, while remaining in control of your business. So most small to medium businesses owners start off with the idea that they want to start a business, build a business so that they can have the financial freedom that they want and be able to do whatever they want, have that time freedom. Yeah. And what happens in reality for most people that have a good, successful business, maybe having 5 to 20 staff, is they're central to that business. If they're not there, the business doesn't work. So they might have really good financial freedom, but they've got no time. They've got no ability to use it.
And this is kind of built on what you've done, really, in your business, isn't it? Go from sort of being really in the middle of it to being able to step out and share your experiences.
Exactly. And I've done it twice. I've stepped away out of the business down to 2 days a week twice, and I've done it 2 different ways. One by abdication, of basically going, I'm only going to be in 2 days a week. I'm done. Yeah. And the other way, which is what the book is about, is a structured way of doing it so that you maintain absolute control of your business. Because let's be honest, we all have our businesses. It's our baby, and we want to make sure that nobody kills it. So we're really progress. We really want control of it, which is why usually we can't let other people do their jobs in the business. Yeah. So why we maintain that.
Well, that sounds great. I can't wait to read it. All right, mate. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today and sharing with everybody. Really appreciate you being here.
My pleasure.